Today I'm going to look at the single well view. The well view is an easy to use display where I can look at geological, petrophysical and geophysical data all in one place. Open a new single well view window using the window item View Single Well View. I'm going to focus on data from well 8. At the top here, choose well 8 to view. The mouse wheel is an easy way to change the selected well. In the top left corner, I have the domain selector. As with other Insight views, I can select from two-way time, TVDSS, or even flattener. Because we're viewing wells, we also have MDKB available. MDKB, measured depth from Kelly bushing, or rotary table, is the default for displaying wells. The Template tab includes options for creating and exporting a template. I can use these options to recall or import a template that I have created earlier. Let's look at some geology first. I'm going to create an empty track and add geological markers, tops, there. The available track types are axis tracks, curve tracks, and seismic tracks. I have already got an axis track, so let's create a curve track. This is the most commonly used type of track. If I create one this way, it will start off empty, so I can put my geological markers here and see where they're located. I can interactively adjust the track width by clicking and dragging the right edge, and zoom in and out using the middle mouse button. For petroleum play analysis, I can use the view to identify my reservoir and seal pairs. To do that, I need to create a track and display the gamma ray log. The gamma curve is often a good log to identify reservoir versus non-reservoir. There are a few different ways to create a new track containing gamma ray. I can create an empty track, then right-click on the track and add well curve. Here you can choose the curve by class or by name. That's easy enough, but when there are many curves, it might be easier to look at the curves in this tab. I can go to the curve, look at the gamma curves, and right-click to add my choice to an existing track or new track. The easiest way would be to drag and drop the class directly into the track. I click the class and drag and drop it into here. Dragging and dropping the class will leave the mnemonic blank, so when you use the template on a new well, Insight will not be restricted by a predefined mnemonic. With the curve displayed on the track, I can click on it to select and see the log curves added here. There are a few things I can do from here. I can change the scale, color bar, and the fill. By default, everything is configured based on class, but I can change those settings. I can change the axis here, flip the range if I want to, and similarly, with the color fill, I can set my own color. Fill options include from left or right, and I can do asymmetric filling of color fill or fill it with two colors. With a custom threshold, I can set up a cutoff for color display. For example, I use 80, and this is how it looks. I'm setting above 80 to be brown, and the yellow is anything below. I can change the color of the curve or change the thickness. This is a typical gamma ray display, created really fast and quickly. If I want to look at more geological information, I can create more log curve tracks. For instance, volume of clay, resistivity, or saturation. For interpreters, the most important use of well views is to show the well to seismic tie. It helps us understand the seismic response by comparing geological information with petroclastic data, synthetics, and seismic data. I'll start by including some petroelastic logs. I'll add density and sonic tracks to my well template. I'll drag the density log here, and add p-sonic as well. A back-to-back display is great for quickly identifying sands. Let's fill density from the right and sonic from the left, and we can quickly use this bright colour as a sand indicator. If I had acoustic impedance, I can have a quick evaluation of soft and hard layers. Here I can see a drop in AI, which indicates a soft bed. Depending on the wavelet, I should expect to see a trough here. I also can look at my check shot data here. One way to look at them would be to display check shot as point data. Here we go. On the track I have check shot point displayed. Let's add the seismic. In the curves I have a far angle stack, which I can drag and drop here. In the same way, I can add the near stack as well. A significant feature of this new well view is that I can show multiple copies of the same curve. This is very handy, especially when I'm showing synthetics. Multiple copies of the synthetic curve looks like a little section of a stack. To compare with seismic, I'll create another track and fill it with data extracted along the wellbore from a 3D volume. I'll click here and add curve extracted from volume. I'll choose my volume, my full stack, and again I can show as many copies as I'd like. In this example, I'll add 7 and play with the color bar and fill as I want. This is a really quick QC to show the tie quality between synthetic and seismic data. I can quickly see the misties and whether there are any residual multiples left in the data. The next thing I want to look at is a little bit of petrophysics. One of the typical displays I would like is a crossover of neutron porosity and density. Highlighting which of these two curves cross over is a commonly used hydrocarbon indicator. I'll add porosity, then I'll go and choose my density here. I include the curves in the same track so they are superimposed together. In the track settings, I will choose line display instead of fill for neutron porosity and for density. When I do this for density 2, you can see that the curve disappears. The reason is because the track range is set to all curves share with the same value. However, I want to have independent ranges. I set up the axes this way. If I swap it like this, put the positive in the minimum and the negative in the maximum, I get this nice display. When I've done that, I can go and fill in the crossover. I choose which one is my left curve and which one is my right curve, and then I fill it in. It is a really fast and easy way to create a good indicator of hydrocarbons. We have potential hydrocarbons here and there and can be highlighted easily with a crossover fill approach. Another thing I can do here is to fill a track with several curves of the same class and superimpose them. Here I have 3 different resistivity curves. I'll put them in one track. As before, I'll go back to the curve selection and add them to my track. For resistivity logs, I'm going to choose line and set the same for the second and the third. I'll use different colours to highlight different kinds of resistivity. Resistivity is a good hydrocarbon indicator because normally brine is very conductive. If you have a reservoir and resistivity increases, that could be due to hydrocarbon. I'll set the scale to logarithmic from 1 to 2000, and now all of them in one track, and it's working nicely. This is a hydrocarbon zone here. So that more or less covers the petrophysical side. The next thing to include is a view of the seismic. Earlier I showed a single set of values extracted exactly along the wellbore. When I add a seismic track from here, it will give me a special track for displaying a region of a volume around the wellbore. It starts empty, but I can choose the volume I want to display. I need to pay attention to the domain. Wells default to MDKB, but seismic and volumes are often in time, or TVD. We can only show sections where they are convertible to the well domain. So, for this data, I need to choose two-way time. Remember, this track can show data from any type of volume, like stacks, elastic properties, calculated virtual volumes, anything. This track has several extraction options. You can choose an ARB line along the well path, the nearest inline or crossline, or the nearest 2D line. I can switch a track between inline and crossline to quickly compare the views. In the seismic display track, I can display any log curve along the wellbore. Right-click on the seismic track and select Add Track to Well on Seismic section. Right-click on the new curve and select Add Well Curve. Curves are filtered via class. select Gamma and Mnemonic GR. Make some adjustments in the display section of the seismic track. All picked horizons and faults are also displayed in the seismic display track. To wrap up, I'm going to add another axis to the right side of the view. This is good because it's sitting close to the seismic data. On the left, I have the well domain, MDKB. On the right side, I have the seismic domain, 2A time. With the crosshair reading, I can read the value of each curve while moving around. Finally, I want to rearrange my track. Here I want to move my synthetics track close to the seismic track. It's so easy to do. I can do it by drag and drop. I can resize the track interactively, or quickly go back and change the color bars. I have a final display like this. Don't forget to export your template for future use. So in just a few minutes, we have built a very nice well display that includes geology, petrophysics, and geophysics, all together in one place. If you have questions or would like to discover more, then visit our website at www.doug.com. And remember, have fun with Insight.